guys, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs for the First Division preview show. Obviously no First Division games last week. It was all FAI Cup. So I'd like to welcome Sean Lean back. Welcome, Sean.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Keith.
Gavin, how are you?
Hi Keith, how are you? Hi Sean.
Hi Gavin.
So this week we're getting into the nitty gritty of the season. There's only a handful of games left, and Gavin, we'll start off with Cork against Wexford, or Cork against Longford, apologies. Cork are in a bit of mixed form at the moment, aren't they? A couple of defeats, a few of them, one of them was the FAI Cup. Bet Longford 4-1 earlier on this season in Turner's Cross, and I know you said previous that Longford were probably one of the more impressive sides to come to Turner's Cross. They're 7 points clear with a handful of games, as I said, to go. So obviously you'd be hoping for a win here. How do you see the game going though?
Yeah, Keith, I'd say this will be a tight game. I suppose that 4-1 game early in the season, it was probably that kind of period where City were kind of against teams where they were getting this 10 or 15 minute spell where they were just tearing teams apart for 10 or 15 minutes. They were doing a lot of games like that where they had these periods during games and they were doing it. So that was then, this is now, and that's like that, the same thing isn't going to happen. Look, I suppose the only thing is at least, with the cup game out of the way, it's done and dusted, So I think like the most important thing now is concentrate on trying to win the league. And I suppose like the most important thing is, again, like I always said, is just pick up the 3 points. Like Sean referred to it there in our last video there last week, and he said, or 2 weeks ago, he said, it doesn't matter how you win the games, it's just about getting 3 points now and try and keep the gap, if you want for a better word, I suppose. And it's going to be a tighter game than it was in the 4-1 game. I think that game, and like I said, I think Longford have been the most organised team. They've been very impressive what I've seen of them. So, I suppose if you're asking me for a scoreline, I'm going to go with a 2-1 to City. It's going to be a tight game.
Interesting. I'm just noticing your top as well. I love it.
Thanks.
He has become a bit of a legend, hasn't he? Especially if you can get them up. Sean, Longford, 4 wins in 5 games. Look, they're 13 points clear of Wexford, who are just outside the playoffs. They're probably guaranteed a playoff spot now. They can draw a level with Longford or with Waterford if they win this game. And I know they were down in Waterford a few weeks ago and won. What are you thinking?
Well, I think, Longford are probably one of the last tough tests that Cork will have to face on the road to the First Division title. I mean, as I said before, they just they really impose their game, or they inflict their game on other teams. Like, it's really unpleasant stuff to watch, but as 4 wins from 5 proves, it's extremely effective. So it's the sort of performance that Longford give that I suppose you'd have concerns about them going into the playoffs, because teams would want to beat them. I know for a fact that after the RFC, they got a bit lucky down at the RFC. Now, in fairness, we weren't great, but they did get that bit of luck, and I know that for a fact if we do play them in the playoffs again, that we'll be very hungry to beat them. As far as catching us goes, it's not an unrealistic prospect. I mean, we're going to get onto it. We've got a tough game this week too, and it's not a given that we're going to get 3 points. So the only thing I would question is whether or not there's a great difference between third and second, or third and fourth, because you're going to be playing the same team anyway, so it probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right. They're probably not going to catch Galway, so Galway will end up probably playing the 5th place team. So we'll move on, guys. Prediction for this game, Sean?
I'd say City will eke it. I'd say 1-0 to City.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 to Cork. I think they're just too good. Wexford against Waterford in Ferry Carrick. Wexford have 1 win in 6 games. Now, in fairness, Sean, that was in the FAI Cup against Sligo after extra time. They beat Waterford 3-1 on the 8th of July, I think it was. And look, they need to win to to stay in the coattails of Treaty, because obviously with Treaty being 4 points clear. Waterford go into the game, they're unbeaten in 5, good win the Cup at the weekends, and they won 2-0 in the reverse fixture, or in the fixture earlier on the season, Ferry Carrick. So, look, they can go 2 points behind Galway. And we mentioned it doesn't matter if teams finish third or fourth, because it's going to play each other anyway. But if you finish second, then there's the chance of playing the 5th place team, which on paper is a little bit easier. So, how do you see this game going for Waterford?
Yeah. Well, I think we're in a better position than when we lost 3-1 at the RSC. Now, I still think Wexford are a good side, and they're dangerous. I think, despite the fact that they haven't gotten the results, the performances have still been good, as last week showed in the FAI Cup. They really put it up to Dundalk. I'd be expecting a tough game. Obviously, it's a derby as well, so that's a little bit of added incentive for them. But I think, and especially with a new signing to add to the squad, although actually I don't think he'll be playing.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
The clearance.
36 years of age.
Yeah.
500 appearances in the UK, and obviously he's playing the Premier League with Blackpool. But is he just coming for a swan song?
It could be, but as far as I see it, it's needed because Eddie Nolan is injured, and you don't have that experience at the back that you'd otherwise need, because it's a young team that we have. So, that bit of experience could come in handy in tight games. But as far as we go, as I said, we're in a much better position than we were. Maybe Danny Searle hadn't figured things out. He hadn't figured out his best tactic or his best starting 11, things like that. So I would expect us to win, but I would still say it will be a close game. I think Wexford will put it up to us. I'm going to go 2-1 Waterford.
Yeah, Gavin, as I said, 1 win in 6 for Wexford. They've kind of hit bad form at the wrong time, haven't they? Look, they need to win, don't they? They need 3 points here. It won't be easy though.
Yeah, I suppose. Look, that'll be try and get the tables turned a bit, I suppose, and try and get a bit of form back in the way. And I suppose, look, when you have key players missing, it makes a difference, especially with teams that kind of, I suppose, for want to have a better word,
Jack Doherty there.
yeah, like, without being disrespectful to Wexford, but the likes of a fella who'll influence a game like that, when you're missing, it's a huge difference. It's different with the likes of, I suppose, City, Galway, Waterford. They have that kind of thing where there's probably, you could say, there's 8 or 9 good players in the team. So if one drops out, the 7 will still carry the other 4. If that makes any sense. But when you're talking about, with all due respect to the lesser teams, they don't have the same amount of quality in their first 11. So, like, when the likes of Jack Doherty, when he's out of the team, it's probably a bigger hit than it is for the likes of Waterford, City or Galway. Look, I don't know what his story is. I don't know if he'd be available for Friday night, but I suppose, look, they'll try and have him back in the team if they can, Keith. And I suppose going to Ferry Carrick is going to be tough for Waterford, but like as Sean said, look, if Baptiste is available for Friday night, they'll definitely play him. Because, like I say, and especially in a game like that, it's the type of game where I think Niall O'Keefe is excellent. He's a super player, right? He's been one of the players that's impressed me this season for Waterford, and it's a game like that where it could be a tight game, where it could be a 1-0 or a 2-1 to Waterford, and you've the likes of him who just protects the back 4 or the back 3 for Waterford, and he's a super player. And I think in a game like that, if Waterford are looking for the 3 points, it's the likes of him that could end up being the man of the match, as opposed to like your attacking players, because Wexford will go at Waterford, because they'll probably see Waterford's weakness at the back. So, like, where Wexford have been decent up front, they'll go at Waterford from that sense. Look, I suppose if it's going to be a tight game, and just before Sean said it, I was actually going to say 2-1 to Waterford, but it is going to be a tight game, and I suppose it's like City and Galway when they play Wexford. If Waterford come away with 3 points, it's a great 3 points in Ferry Carrick to come away with.
Yeah, and fingers crossed for Waterford that they'll bring a nice tidy crowd with them. It's only up the road, and in fairness to Wexford, they did put it up to Dundalk in the Cup, so there'll be no pushover, especially with Ian Ryan being involved there. Guys, I'm going to go with 2-1 to Waterford as well. So if you're watching, back that, because all 3 of us have gone for that. So
it's going to be 2-1 to Wexford.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
8-4 or something like that.
3 sending offs. Guys, we'll move on. Bray are playing Athlone this week. Look, Bray, the confidence. Yeah. Whatever. Confidence will be there after the Galway results. Let's be honest. A fantastic result in Galway, 2-1. The thing with Bray is they need to build off this. They can't beat Galway and then go and put in a bad performance against Athlone. You're almost planning for next season with Bray. They're 12 points off the playoffs. It'll be unheard of if they were to catch any of the two teams that are ahead of them. So, Gavin, we'll go to you. Like, Bray's season is just fizzling out here, isn't it?
I suppose it is, unfortunately for yourself, Keith, and I suppose it's similar. It's similar to Athlone. It's similar to Cobh. You know, we had this conversation and we're kind of repeating ourselves in the sense that you're kind of looking at it from a point of view, see out the season and try and plan for next year. And unfortunately, that's the story in this game that's going to come up. And as you said, look, after Bray beating Galway, the most important thing is to try and keep a momentum and just try and pick up 3 points. And you know, like they'll look back at the Galway game and they'll look at, I suppose, from a point of view, they look at it from a point and say, right, you know, this is how we exploited Galway. Can we do the same thing against Athlone? And you can't see any reason why Bray can't pick up 3 points at home in this game. No, like we said, I suppose it's funny in a sense when it comes to our predictions. Like, you know, in this game, I would be thinking Bray will win this game maybe 3-1, and that's my honest opinion. But this game could end up being 4-4. Like, you know, it's one of those games. And like, do you remember we said it a couple of months ago? We were doing a prediction on a game, and we were saying it'd probably be the worst game of the weekend. But like that, it could end up being the best game of the weekend because the two of them, in a sense, have been, you know, so poor in situations, you know, stupid goals, and that it's games like this could actually end up being the best game because it won't be a tight game in a sense of not going to leak goals. So, you know, this could end up being the game of the weekend for want of a better word. Bray will be hoping for the 3 points, but like I said, this game could end up being 3 or 4 all, you know.
Yeah. Well, for the neutral, hopefully it is. Not so much for me. Maybe I'll take our one who will be able to handle it. Athlone, Sean, look, they beat Treaty last time out, kind of put a spanner in the works, didn't it, for the playoff positions and stuff. With Athlone, and myself and Gavin have spoken about this, they seem to score all the time. They've scored in the last 10 games, and the last team to stop them scoring was actually Bray in the Carlisle on the 27th of May. The incentive here for Athlone is they could leapfrog Cobh Ramblers into 9th. Now, I know that doesn't sound sensational, but to get off the bottom of the first division, it can only be a good thing, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, they've had a rough couple of years up in Athlone, what with all the behind-the-scenes stuff, so maybe it is a bit of incentive. I suppose the only thing you'd say is that it's probably going to be a different batch of players in next season as well, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of continuity with the Athlone squad, so maybe that could be it. I would agree with Gavin insofar as this is like a really hard game to predict because, you know, when two teams don't have much to play for, maybe the Bray players would be looking at it at the corner of their eye that, you know, there's a small chance they can get to the playoffs, and maybe they'll use that to keep their season alive, I guess. But Athlone, I mean, they're so difficult to predict because they throw a spanner in the works with an odd, tough result. You know, they beat Longford in the El Clasico, and they beat Treaty last time out, and they nearly got a draw against Cork there. I don't know how far back, but yeah, I think I'm going to go with a high scoring game. I think it could be a 3-all or a 4-all because it's the kind of game you just wouldn't expect. So I think that could be it.
The reason I was smiling, Gavin, is as Sean mentioned about Bray's push for the playoff. Be some crack if they were in with a shout the last game of the season, going to Turner's Cross, and Cork had to win the game to win the title. I'm going to
I get a heart attack to mind you.
I'm going to go for Bray here, guys. I have to. Great result in Galway. I think 2-0 Bray. I know I'm going against what I said about Athlone scoring goals in every game, but I think Bray will hold them to 0. The final game of the weekend is Treaty against Cobh. Sean, another good win in the cup for a first division side. I know it was against non-league opposition, but they're into the quarterfinals, and they have a chance to get into a semi, which would be great for the first division. They kind of need to stay ahead of Wexford. So I'll speak to you in a second, Gavin, about Cobh, but this game, like, it's almost a must win. With Wexford going up against Waterford, the local derby, they'll just want to stay ahead, won't they? Just to have that little bit of a gap from Wexford.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are the kinds of games, no disrespect to Cobh or anything, but Treaty would be looking at this game and saying, like, this is one of the games that if you're looking for 3 points, it doesn't come, any better than this. The only thing you say about Treaty as well is that, the consistency just hasn't been there. Going from beating Cork and Turner's Cross and being the best team on the pitch by a mile, and then going up to Athlone, and it was like a different team played. Yeah. I have a bad feeling about them for this game. I don't think they'll get it done. I think this is the kind of game, and especially with the way Cobh played, it'd be tough to break them down. I don't know if Treaty have it in them. If they get a lucky goal, early on, it goes in off someone's arse. It could end up being 3 or 4-0. But if they have trouble breaking them down, which I think they will, then this could be a disappointing game for them.
Yeah, obviously, Enda Curran is up there as one of the top goal scorers in the division, so you'll be hoping to bang a few more in. Gavin, speak to you about Cobh, with you being from that region. It's a dire situation, isn't it? They've one win in 17 games. We don't have to guess who that win is against, because you probably know. Probably Shane Keegan's looking at next season already. Look, they have the players there. They have the experienced players like Frehill, like Kavanagh, like Jason Abbott, that can bring on the young players like Sean McGrath, Hegarty, Droynan. So if they brought in a few players that can add to the squad, they can add to the quality of what they already have, it'll only push them up the table, obviously. But this season has been so disappointing for them, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely, Keith. The strange thing about it actually is that, I remember at the start when Shane Keegan came in, I kind of dissed him, or I didn't kind of saying, oh God, like, I don't know, is this good? But I actually have seen a vast improvement in their organisation in that couple of weeks. And I think what he's after realising, Keith, is that he seems to have figured out his best 11 in a certain formation. And I think it's reaping its rewards. The problem is it's too late in the season for it to happen. And I know, wins and results, that's what it's all about. That's the business in it. And as you said, one win in 17 games. Like, the only thing I will say is, Keith, is after watching them against City, 2 or 3 weeks ago, like, they were so much improved as a unit, as a team. They played
in both games, Gavin, in the cup as well.
In the cup as well. Like, I suppose, look, Keith, they were always going to up their game against City in the cup, because obviously it's a local derby, and they were at home, and they were going to make it hard for City anyway. But the league game was a different story altogether. Like, they had City on the ropes for a lot of that game, and they seem to have cut out these kind of stupid mistakes. Like, Sean will tell you there, like, Waterford beat them 4 or 5-0 down in Coleman's there not so long ago. And it was just from pure stupid, idiotic mistakes that an under-12 team would make. But since Shane Keegan's come in, he stopped that. And he seems to have reverted to the 4-5-1, as I said. And it just suits the team so much better. He seems to be getting the maximum out of the squad that he has. And as you said, Keith, I think with a couple of players for next season, if they can, I think they'll be in a much better position next year. The strange thing, and funny enough, Sean said it there as well, the strange thing about this game to weekend, Treaty are like licorice all sorts, the funny thing about it is, I think Treaty won't turn up this weekend. I think it's actually going to go in Cobh's favour, and because the way Treaty are, and I think Cobh would go up there with a lot of confidence, especially after the Cork City game in Coleman's Park. And the funny thing about it is, I think Cobh are going to come away with 3 points here. And like I said, he's after getting Shawnee McGrath into the team, who's a super player, lovely on the ball. And Luke Desmond, he's kind of after dropping him into midfield in next Craig Abbott. So I think the funny thing about it is, it just seems to be working better for him. And he's put Jake Hagerty up front, who's a big young fella, big, strong, powerful young fella who's able to hold up the ball well. And it just seems to be working with himself and Shawnee McGrath.
Just on that, Gavin, Whitmarsh Brian Whitmarsh is gone out of the fold, has he?
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. It's Shane Keegan looking from a point of view, Keith, that, as I said, he's kind of changed the team, changed the squad, changed the formation, and he's looking from a point of view, if he's going with a 4-5-1 and he's dropping Shawnee McGrath into the 5 when they're defending, he's obviously looking at Jake Hagerty and saying, right, in terms of height, in terms of strength, Jake is much stronger than O'Brien Whitmarsh. So he's obviously saying, when the ball goes up, this type of fella will take the ball down, use his upper body strength to hold onto the ball, and wait for the likes of Abbott or Phillips or Luke Desmond or Shawnee McGrath or Drinan on one wing. He's waiting. He'll know that he'll hold up the ball and wait for the lads to come into play and try and make it a 4-3-3 when they're attacking. And he's making the most of what he has. And to be fair to Shane Keegan, I think he's done that very well. So I think that's why he's playing Jake Hagerty up there. And I think it's reaping its rewards. And I actually fancy Cobh to win this game. And I think they're going to get a couple of goals. So I'm going to go with a 3-1 win to Cobh.
Interesting. I'm going to go with a 1-1. Guys, the weekend where Cork could go 10 points clear and almost wrap up the title, and Gavin will be celebrating in the streets of Cork City. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. If you like the video, guys, hit the bell notification. Let us know in the comments what you think of the games this weekend, and we'll see you all next week. Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you.